Welcome, everyone. My name is Kim Courvoisier, and I'm the Director of Content Marketing here at Lab. And I'm excited to chat about one of my very favorite marketing topics today, retaining and reactivating customers. And I'm also thrilled to be joined by another industry pro, Paul Bobnak. So Paul, welcome. Say hi to everybody. So Paul joins us from Who's Mailing What. He's been in the direct marketing space for over 20 years, analyzing thousands of direct mailing samples for Who's Mailing What and writing for Target Marketing and Nonprofit Pro. Today, he creates content for mailing.com and other companies in print and marketing and hosts Meet the Mailers video podcast. Paul also educates and inspires audiences on the power of direct mail at industry events, webinars like this one, and groups. So we're excited to have him here today. I'm also told that we have a fun fact about you, Paul.
Okay.
So Paul's an avid day hiker and a big fan of national nearby state parks. So I have to ask you, what's your favorite national or state park and why?
Well, the closest to me is Valley Forge National Historical Park. It's like 10 or 15 minutes away. Has about 30 trails, some of them paved, some of them not. And it's just a great place to go to get a good workout in, meet up with friends, and just disconnect from technology.
That sounds incredible, especially that last bit. I personally always wanted to go to Katmai National Park in Alaska. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's an area where these huge brown bears just stand in the middle of the stream and the salmon are swimming upstream. And they just like reach out and grab them, and they're just having this big like teddy bear snack party on the salmon. And it's so fun to watch on the live stream.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, yes. But we will now jump into our webinar and not talk about brown bears. A few reminders before we jump in. If the audience, if you have any questions, please jump into the Q&A located in your Zoom navigation bar, and we'll get to as many of those questions at the end. If we run out of time, we commit to answering all of those via email, so you'll absolutely get all your questions answered. Following the webinar, we'll also send you a recording of this session, as well as our guide. So for now, you can just sit back and enjoy the conversation between Paul and myself. So on with the show. Managing retention is an essential part of growing a business, right? According to research from Harvard Business School, increasing customer retention rates by only 5% increases a company's profits by 25 to 95%. That's a huge spread. But the goal is to turn first-time customers into repeat customers and maximize lifetime value. If your company is like most, your current customers are the lifeblood of revenue. So Paul, when you think about being a direct mail practitioner today, with all the budget constraints we have, how do you think about and balance customer acquisition versus customer retention and like reactivation?
Well, Kim, it costs what, about 5 times as much to acquire a new customer as it does to keep an existing one happy and continually buying from you. So it's a no-brainer. When you have retention of customers or donors, you're probably continuing to spend lots of money on the acquisition treadmill just to stand still. Think of it as like a leaky bucket that you keep trying to fill. It makes much more sense to keep customers engaged. Like as other people have put it, keep customers delighted after their first purchase. And that takes customer care. This reminds me of a stat I saw in a survey by the marketing firm Invest. 89% of marketers see customer experience as a key factor in driving loyalty and retention. With some key investments, you're still going to be saving money compared to constantly churning through new customers.
Yeah, for sure. I love the analogy of the treadmill and the leaky bucket. And it's really about creating those memorable customer journeys and experiences, as you said, right? That sort of surprise and delight that goes along with that.
Yeah.
I know as marketers, we all work really hard to acquire new customers and get them to make that first purchase. There's a ton of focus there, but we have to work just as hard to keep them engaged, motivate them to make repeat purchases, and mitigate churn. So let's talk about reactivation for a minute. Customer win-back or reactivations used to win back dormant or churn customers, just like it sounds. Reactivation campaigns usually will involve a multi-channel approach that includes online and offline tactics like email marketing, direct mail, social media, digital ads, and perhaps even events, whether they be live or virtual. It involves personalized messaging and offers designed to incentivize customers to buy again. So, Paul, how critical do you think it is for marketers to focus on reactivation?
Well, it's really very critical because it makes financial sense. Statistics show that you have up to a 70% success rate in converting a customer through reactivation versus acquisition. Here's another great stat. Loyal customers spend 67% more than prospective ones. When you consider the cost factor involved in campaigns today, like data, postage, printing production, they're all going up, right? A winning campaign in one channel or across several is much more likely to succeed. Hopefully, your analytics are going to reveal what segments have been most successful for you and what you can address to bring inactive customers back. A reactivation strategy can be based on triggers or a drip campaign using intelligent direct mail, which is Lob's platform, to get in the mail faster and to stay there, reaching customers with relevant messaging and offers.
Exactly. Nailed it. And with these shrinking budgets that we're all encountering today and increasing goals, that ROI is more important than ever. So let's take a look at ROI. When every dollar counts, we have to turn to our most effective channels because we know we can depend on them to deliver results. In the State of Direct Mail report, 67% of marketers said that direct mail delivers the best ROI of any channel they use. And only 5% of the respondents were using direct mail as a standalone tactic. So this leads me to ask you, Paul, how do you see brands using direct mail in combination with other channels to retain and reactivate customers?
If you have the right CRM or marketing automation, you should already have a good idea about what channels work best for retaining and reactivating your customers. This is channel propensity, understanding what channel or channels your audience is most likely to act on and convert from your messages. For some, it may be direct mail, or maybe it's something like Instagram, and certainly email for many. The value of direct mail is that it's tactile. It more easily commands attention because of that. The key thing is that while you know what channel serves your needs best because you have the data on that, you should also be aware of other channels and how they may have unique strengths that can help broaden your approach.
So true. And that's really a theme that's woven throughout today's discussion is that, it's not direct mail versus email or direct mail versus social media. It's how do you use these channels and your best performing channels to retain your customers and reactivate that.
Yeah.
And data is power, right, for marketers. And we have more access to data than we ever have in the past. I mean, remember 10 years ago, it was like you couldn't get to data, you were flying blind. And now, thanks to integrations and busting it out of the reporting silos that used to be the norm, we can see more clearly, we can power so many more things. So I want to pivot a little bit and talk about this scary thing called churn, which is sort of this monster that lurks underneath everything else that we're doing. Churn's something that can definitely keep you up at night, as it does me, but there are some surefire ways to combat it. Before we get into some real life examples, I just want to touch on 4 tactics that you can use right away to fend off churn and re-engage customers that might have gone dormant. Like we were just talking about, data's king, and using it correctly can make your direct mail campaigns much more effective. Using data to segment your marketing campaigns, whether they be digital or direct mail, means being able to send targeted messages directly to the right audience at the right time. And it's key to improving that ROI. Using data about your customers from browsing history, past purchases, can help you trigger those cross-sells and upsells provide the most compelling offers. You can also use data to personalize and customize mail pieces, making them much more likely to convert. So Paul, question time again.
Yep.
How do you see direct mail practitioners effectively using data to win back customers?
Great question. Start by looking at the data you have on your inactives using an RFM analysis. And that stands for recency, frequency, and monetary metrics. Or put another way, how recently did they buy? How many times have they bought? And how much they have spent. Depending on your business type or your products or services, you'll have to figure out which one of those to prioritize over the others in choosing your segments to target. One option you have after that is to break down each of these segments into 5 equal groups or quintiles and assign them values. So let's say you're a car service center. Do you target someone who spent a lot of money one time in the last 6 months, or a customer who has had several smaller, more recent maintenance jobs done? That's the beauty of using data. It helps you see opportunities in your customer base.
Oh, I know that I am the end target of one of these RFM analysis by a oil service company called Valvoline. They have honed in on the unique opportunity to get me to come in as often as possible. And I love a good RFM analysis because it really enables you to sort of geek out on that data, but more so to really hone in on those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of getting a little more personal, let's look at our next tactic. Consumers want these personalized experiences, including in their direct mail. So if you're only scratching the surface using their first name, it's now the time to double down on your efforts. So you can build stronger relationships that engage customers throughout that journey. So Paul, how can marketers personalize direct mail to reach customers that may have churned or just to reactivate customers?
Well, Kim, you just have to use your mail piece to remind them of why they became a customer of yours in the first place. So I'm talking about somebody's purchase history, or for a nonprofit, their donation or membership history. You can reference that in your pricing, the product or the service they bought from you previously. And depending on your form factor, there are a lot of places to do that, like the teaser on the outer envelope, or the front panel of your self-mailer, or inside the letter. Use variable images, graphs, and copy in your headlines and subheads to initially draw their attention. Then when they read deeper, you make the right offer at the right time to meet their wants and needs and bring them home. And it's a tough challenge much of the time, right? You have to figure out how to mix and match and serve up the right products to each customer, which is why you have to do your homework and make sure that your messaging and offers are really relevant to your customers.
Yes, definitely. But that's part of the fun of our jobs, right?
Absolutely.
And an intelligent direct mail platform makes it easy to bring personalized images or that type of data into each mail piece. And knowing that just a little over half of consumers expect their direct mail to be personalized, the ability to do that seamlessly is critical. And it's a great way to continue to build those relationships. So now let's talk about how we use our channels together. As Paul referenced before, using data from your CRM, marketing automation platforms, and other integrations, you can precisely segment and target your audience members to receive the right message at the right time. This coordinated effort results in more targeted mail pieces and less waste, which is great for the environment, and better response and ROI metrics. So just a minute ago or so, we chatted a bit about combining direct mail with other channels. And I'd love, Paul, for you to take an opportunity to just double click a bit deeper into the topic and talk to our audience about how they can leverage this omnichannel approach even better.
Well, depending on your industry and how much data you have on your customers, direct mail can make a real difference as part of a retention campaign across channels. Starting a campaign with an email, for example, lets the customer knows that you're still interested in them. That's the warm up, and it builds anticipation for the direct mail component that comes in the mail. Some people may respond simply to that outreach. However, not every customer opens every email effort, especially when you email very often. So it may be better to target your highest value segment or segments with a mail piece that leverages what you know about their interactions with your brand. We mentioned this before, like purchases and their interest in your product or service categories.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And it totally echoes an example that we're going to chat about in depth in a few. So let's move along to our next tactic. So digital channels provide clear metrics to measure, right? Impressions, opens, conversions, return on investment. In contrast, direct mail can often be perceived as hard to measure, but that's not the case. Measuring the success of your direct mail campaigns can be accomplished by looking at response rate, revenue generated per mail piece, ROI, the cost of time spent or saved orchestrating the campaign. So, Paul, how do you view the most important key performance indicators when it comes to direct mail measurement? And I'd say specifically, since the focus of this webinar is on the effectiveness of reactivation campaigns.
Well, the beauty of direct mail is measurability. You can compare the cost and the performance of your campaigns with a great degree of precision for your specific goals. And not every campaign has the same goals. Response rate is probably the most basic, right? Conversion rate. Or you can look at revenue generated per piece. But even better is ROI, return on investment, where you plug in the cost of the campaign, which is what you divide your total revenue figure by. I think it's the best one to go with as a general indicator of how effective your campaign is overall in reactivating your target audience. And yeah, you have to be really careful not to miss any of your campaign costs because they can be significant.
Oh, absolutely. And interesting, in the State of Direct Mail report that, most marketers that we spoke with said that they really felt like they could measure the ROI. And I think that's where that, nice big juicy stat we talked about earlier came from, that 67% know that direct mail delivers the highest ROI of any channel they have because it's measurable, right?
Right.
And it's critical to both test and measure. But I'm curious, how do we take all those KPIs that we are measuring and use them as learning so that we can optimize for future campaigns? Because that's what really brings the scale to life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, by looking at the breakdowns of how many responses you get in the mail channel, what the revenue per piece is, and also the ROI, you can make adjustments or at least test some adjustments that reduce like your cost maybe. Try shifting a bottom quintile from direct mail to email, or maybe put your campaign into an automation driven DM platform like Lobs. This way you can raise response rates, use more personalization, and speed up your workflow. And if you mail more, you mail smarter, and you also increase your direct mail impressions. Another great metric.
Oh, I love that. We can mail smarter and not harder. Okay. So as a content marketer, this is my very favorite part of the webinar because we get to tell stories. And we'll share a couple of examples from a few well-known brands that are leveraging the tactics that we've just been chatting about.
Awesome.
So without further ado. So I don't know about you, Paul, but I've been hearing a ton of recent travel stories about lost luggage, flight cancellations, and general just travel mayhem, right? So how nice would it be if airlines handled those communications proactively, provide customers with a better experience? This story is about how Trafilea, the parent brand of Shapermint, used direct mail to handle shipping delays that impacted their customers. Trafilea created and sent personalized direct mail with a unique coupon code for a future purchase. The goal was to keep loyal customers and prevent them from churning due to the delays. Trafelea's team used merge variables to personalize the content for each recipient and also test different mail formats, including both postcards and letters. And here's what happened. I feel like I need a little drum roll. By sending a personalized letter to customers whose orders were delayed but already delivered, Trafilea saw an 8% conversion compared to a 2% conversion for customers whose orders were still in transit. So it mattered what stage they were in. Letters saw a 3% increase in conversions compared to postcards, so letters performed better. And tracking 180 days after sending the direct mail piece and the letter, Trafilea saw a 10% increase in repeat purchases from that cohort. So Paul, this was an interesting one. I'm curious if you've seen similar use cases, because I think this is rather unique.
Mm. Yeah, unfortunately not. And I love this. I love this case study of Trafilea. This is extremely well done. Working at Hughes Mailing What a few years ago, I remember there was a data security breach at a major credit card company. And in response, they mailed a simple one-page letter to affected cardholders, apologizing for the exposure and offering free credit bureau protection. This is really so important, as you mentioned, with airline delays and supply chain glitches, even weather problems. Be human and empathetic, apologize, maybe make an offer with an incentive like Trafilea did here that smooths things over, shows you care, and along the way, you can segment your data to really do it, there's that word again, smartly.
Exactly. And I think I might have actually received that letter about that breach. No one wants to receive that letter ever, right?
Yeah.
But when, there's an offer to make things better, I think that's spot on. So let's look at another recipe for success. And warning, the slide might make you a little hungry if you haven't had breakfast. Um, so we've all seen it before, right? A once active customer starts logging in less frequently, doesn't purchase as often, may even put their subscription on pause, or worse, cancel their account. This dormant or churned customer is often one that can be reactivated at a lower cost, like you talked about before, than acquiring a brand new customer. And inactive customers have already made a purchase, so clearly they have or had an interest in your brand and products. So this story is about Marley Spoon, and they send recipe and ingredients in one convenient box, making it easy to cook, even for people like me, a delicious dinner at home. After working with several printers on its direct mail efforts, Marley Spoon partnered with Lob to focus on reactivating its churned customer base using automated direct mail. The team employed user attributes from their customers and real-time event data to create direct mail reactivation campaigns. And this is key, focused on their high-value customers to maximize ROI. This approach enabled the team to start small, minimizing their risk, and apply its learnings to iterate and optimize, there's that word, future campaigns. What happened exceeded their expectations. The direct mail reactivation campaign drove 20% of paid conversions. And the team said, with each campaign we sent, we've seen a higher conversion rate and a lower cost per reactivation. That's massive. Marley Spoon was really encouraged by the results of the direct mail compared to other digital channels, including email marketing. The team told me we get a 263% higher conversion rate with our direct mail than email. But let me be clear, this is not a story of email is bad and direct mail is good. This is a story about how they're symbiotic. And let me get you a little more context here. Marley Spoon targets a smaller, high-value audience segment with their direct mail, and they send email out to everybody, right? They reach more customers using direct mail than they would with their emails, though, because as we all know, not all the emails you send get opened. Email open rates on a good day may hover around 20%. So using direct mail, they can reach customers who might not be interested in their emails. And they've been testing this strategy with a two-part test. They use direct mail to target their high-value customers. They have a segment that gets a direct mail and an email, and they found that that second group has the highest conversion of all the segments. So yay for direct mail and email working together. I really like this example because the team was strategic in its use of direct mail, targeting its highest value customers, and used email with lower value customers for that 1-2 punch. So Paul, that was a lot, right? A lot going on there. So I'd love to hear your take on this campaign.
Well, I think this is such a great case study. The stats speak for themselves because churn is this great challenge facing a lot of brands that are primarily or even totally online. You think of all the startups like this subscription service here, Marley Spoon, um, and many others from the last 10 years that were disruptive or first to their market. The strategy here makes a lot of sense because it recognizes that different customer cohorts have had different customer experiences in their life cycles. Direct mail is tactile. It can make a bigger impression on the high value audience and reactivate them more easily. I'd also point out that if you map out customer life cycle and possible touch points from that initial purchase onward, you can keep them warmed up and engaged with mail that's API triggered. And the same goes for reactivating them. Just use triggers to reach out to them and make it worthwhile to come back.
Yep, absolutely. And just as we said all along, mailing smarter, not harder. So before I get any hungrier and wanting waffles, let's look at one more short example from our friends over at Wayfair. So Wayfair is an American e-commerce company that sells furniture and home goods, and they use intelligent direct mail in their Wayfair professional program. So in this example, Wayfair created a reactivation campaign to generate revenue using personalized postcards that featured images of previous purchases to encourage repeat business. The campaign met their defined efficiency targets and generated the incremental revenue surpassing the expectation. So the recent State of Direct Mail Consumer Insights report showed that one of the top ways to engage consumers is by using images of previous purchases, just as they did here. So Paul, what other data do you think would be helpful in a reactivation campaign? Like here, they use the data about a previous purchase. What's your take there?
Yeah, well, we've already touched on some of this before, Kim. You think about the ways to reference past purchases with your headlines or subheads. Maybe make an offer with a discount or even throw in an incentive for making a purchase. Or perhaps there's seasonality you can get involved. For a lot of healthcare marketers, I've seen customers reminded to use or lose the money in their health savings accounts, their HSAs. Or if you're a supermarket or another big retailer, you can let people know that past purchase items that they've been looking for have been put back in stock, which is really so helpful for back to school or holiday seasons, for instance.
Yeah, that's such a timely example that you've just touched on, especially as we head into Q4, with like end of year FSA reminders, for nonprofits, those donation requests that can roll in so you can, get that tax break at the end of the year, tax season approaching. So many things that you can use, like event and date-based triggers to power a myriad of high converting campaigns. So I think that's such a great example.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. So let's pull it all together. Reactivation campaigns effectively reignite dormant customers to become active again, increasing lifetime value. Intelligent direct mail campaigns target specific cohorts of your audience with unique offers and promotions to win them back and drive revenue, just as Trafilea, Marley Spoon, and Wayfair did in the examples we shared. Lab provides a new way for marketing teams to use intelligent direct mail. Manual processes are replaced with automation that enables you to integrate and trigger custom direct mail pieces as part of your campaigns. And Lab manages the complexity of mail production by routing mail across an integrated network of commercial printers. This approach makes the end-to-end process of creating and sending mail much faster, often as quick as 4 days compared to weeks or even months for traditional direct mail campaigns. And you can send one or millions of customer mail pieces, all at flat rate pricing, which will also add to the predictability of your campaign costs. This speed to market approach ensures timely, relevant messaging based on customer behavior. You can easily create reactivation campaigns to hit mailboxes at the perfect time. A true win for you and your customers, enabling you to build those long-lasting relationships. Direct mail is critical for retaining your customer base, but it isn't the only tool at your disposal. Using a combination of direct mail and digital marketing to keep people coming back to your brand. Digital marketing and direct mail really work best when paired together, kind of like coffee and pumpkin spice in a PSL. By using the best attributes of each channel, you have a unique opportunity to increase retention. So I think it's time to look at that Q&A panel and answer a few questions. Are you ready, Paul?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, wow. It looks like we have a few questions already.
Awesome.
So as a reminder, any questions we don't get to will be answered via email following the webinar. So don't fret if we don't get to your question. Okay, let me look through these real quick. Okay, this first one, because of course I love KPIs. Can you talk again about which KPIs to track when it comes to measuring the success of my retention and reactivation campaign?
Yeah, well, I briefly mentioned conversion rate and revenue per piece, as well as impressions, which is really a huge one too. But yeah, ROI is probably the best one as long as you've taken into account any manual processes that go into your workflow. When you have that, that can slow your timeline and flexibility, hurt your impressions count, and add to your costs. So when you use an automated platform like Lob, it increases your ROI and frees you up to focus even more on things that drive response, like personalization.
Thank you for the little plug for Lob. All right, you ready for the next one?
Yep.
So you shared several examples of, retail-focused reactivation campaigns. Do you see other industries using direct mail for these types of campaigns as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Over the years, I've seen so many successful campaigns, and ones like healthcare and financial services, insurance. Sometimes they tend to be more regulated, but they have lots of ways to leverage data to offer new products and services to customers based on their behavior, their demographics, when their demographics change, and other segmentation factors. The credit card offers, for instance, can upgrade members based on spending, or insurance companies do a lot of upselling and cross-selling for different types of insurance, or for adding kids or spouses to a policy. So there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing so much more usage of direct mail from fintechs as well as insurance, and a lot more like using postcards and really being really modern about the way that they're marketing, almost going like the way of like a direct to consumer type of approach. And it's been really interesting to watch that evolution from sort of, I would say, more OG, a little more stodgy, a little more uptight, to being really fresh and modern and engaging, and it really can get that attention and stand out. So I love seeing that.
Oh yeah, totally, as it should be.
Yeah. All right, I think we have time for like one more before I'm going to get cut off here. What can nonprofits do better to retain donors and members? I love this because we really didn't talk a lot about that, and it's so top of mind, especially this time of year. So can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Kim. There's survey data from the Association of Fundraising Professionals, I'm reminded of, that shows overall nonprofit retention rate has stayed around 45% since 2016, which doesn't sound too bad. But get this, for new donors, it was like almost 19% in 2021, down from just a little over 25% in 2015, which is not good. So regardless of why, what the reasons are, to answer your question, some basic steps just all stem from changing your mindset. For a nonprofit, you want to focus on strategies that keep donors with the resources that you already have, as well as resources that you can invest in. After that first gift, you must thank them for it quickly. Then the things we've talked about already, segmenting your file, adding personalization. Or here's a big one, report to your donors on the impact and do it on a regular basis. People have an emotional commitment to a cause. So report on that, survey them, enable them to connect with others peer-to-peer. Another thing is offer recurring gift options, which provide you with predictable revenue. Overall, it's just recognizing the importance of the donor as a change agent for that cause and treating them well for it.
Yeah, that's like so spot on. I can see why you've been doing this for 20 years. You're definitely a pro. Thank you for that. And, I think it's really important. Nonprofits, more than, almost anyone, really have to consider that relationship building that we're doing, because they are competing for that share of wallet, right? You're giving money that you might be, tempted to spend elsewhere, or, not give a charitable donation, but spend it on yourself. So they have to work almost twice as hard in some ways to get people to part with, that money. So this relationship building and this impact that you're talking about, sharing it and thanking them, and all of those are vitally important.
Yeah.
So with that, I just want to thank everyone for these awesome questions, and we'll respond to any that we didn't get to via email. But before we wrap up, I'd love to launch a quick poll to see if you'd like to learn more about our direct mail automation platform that transforms direct mail into intelligent mail at scale. I'd love to thank you all for coming, and thank you to Paul for all of his incredible insights.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul. We love having you.
Thank
So keep your eyes peeled for your copy of the recording of this session, as well as the guide. And as we always say, until next time, happy mailing.